Welcome to Conveyancing Matters with Lorraine and Stu. Join us for a chat about all things property. Hello, Stu. How are you?
Hi, Lorraine. Very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Well, for our lovely people watching on YouTube, we're going to do a news review, a conveyancing news review of 2024. But can you actually believe, Stu, we're at the end of 2024?
No, absolutely not. It's unbelievable. I can't remember the summer.
I know.
So I don't know where it's gone really.
I know, I agree. Well, I think as it's our YouTube channel, Stu, we're allowed to start off with some of the great things that we've done with Conveyancing Matters this year. Because as you know, as everybody hopefully knows, it started off as a YouTube chat between you and I, but now we've moved into other things, and particularly a subscription service. But we do have our live events, which are open really to anybody that's connected with property. But if you're an annual subscriber, you can come for free. But we've had three really good live events this year, Stu.
Yeah, absolutely. We did Birmingham for the first time, didn't we?
Yeah.
That went down really well. And of course, we had our regular events in Essex, Raleigh and Essex, and also London.
Yeah, they were all great, and we'd really like to thank our sponsors for those events, and obviously to all those who attended. And for anybody who doesn't know, they are usually sort of 6 to 9 p.m. after work in a nice venue. We had a new London venue. We went to the Wood in Shades, which was great, and basically it's networking over a drink or two, which is included in your ticket price. And Stu and I usually do a sort of a chat as well that attracts CPD, but it's mostly sort of networking with sort of property colleagues and not just conveyancers, Stu, is it?
No, absolutely. There's always a mix of conveyancers, providers to the industry, and also estate agents and mortgage brokers as well. And we're quite happy to talk about anything, Lorraine, aren't we? So, if next year people have a demand that we chat about various things, we're more than happy to sort of roll that out and see what everybody wants to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, to blow our own trumpets a bit, Stu, individually, we've both had a bit of national exposure, haven't we? I was been invited on you and yours on Radio 4 a couple of times, which has been very nice to talk about property related things. But you've done actual real telly.
Yeah, I certainly did. Yeah. So at the start of the year, I started to do some consultancy for a firm that were looking at property and title fraud, and then kind of escalated from there insofar as there were more and more cases that I had to look into, and that sort of ended up with an appearance on Channel 5 where yeah, it was a program about scams with Alexis Conran, and that went down really well.
Yeah, excellent. And well, to kind of feed in, we had some really great guests during 2024, and we'd like to sort of thank all of those. But of course, you spoke to the big fraud story of the last 2 or 3 years for conveyancers, really. Mike Hall, the vicar who lost his house. He was one of the guests that you spoke to, and of course, very sort of closely related to the terrible fraud situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to meet Mike in person, and actually go through sort of the case and how it started, how it happened, and of course how it affected him. So again, yeah, people can visit that and have a look at that chat that we had.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, yeah, and we will invariably be coming back to fraud threats for conveyancers in 2025, undoubtedly, as a top
Unfortunately,
topic.
it's going to be something that's always going to be on the increase, isn't
It
it? So,
is,
yeah.
and certainly we will return to that. And we've had other great guests. We had Noel Hunter, who's the chair of the Consumer Code for Home Builders. We had Lexi, a property influencer. She was absolutely lovely. Wonderful Teo, presenter, and just absolutely lovely guy. And a sort of friend of the show, Mike Day, sort of ex-head of Connells, and now doing his own sort of training and lots of compliance stuff. And right at the beginning of the year, we spoke to lovely Scott Hastings, the US
Yeah.
mortgage broker, Stu, who was lovely. And of course, National Conveyancing Week, we spoke to, of course, the Silver Fox himself, Rob Housestone.
That's it.
And Conveyancing Week will be happening again this year in March. So I'm sure that there'll be lots of sort of events and activities that are relevant for conveyancers there. But our own little YouTube channel, we've done quite well with our subscribers, given that it is about conveyancing.
Yeah, a bit of a niche subject to say the least, isn't it? But
It is.
yeah, we get over 500 subscribers now, so
Yeah, we have, and we are still going to be obviously carrying on in 2025, putting out our free monthly content. But as we mentioned at the outset, our Conveyancing Matters subscription is going well. And certainly now, Stu, that we've been running it for a couple of years, subscribers are clearly finding it helpful because
Yeah.
firms and individuals are resubscribing. So if you're an individual, you pay £40. If you're a firm, you pay £150. That's an annual subscription, and you get a monthly CPD webinar, other things that we offer, and you get to go to the Conveyancing Matters networking live events for free. And some of the monthly CPD webinars too. We've done some good topics, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from common hold, unregistered, obviously the Building Safety Act, something we couldn't not have a chat about. But it's not just the big beefy topics; it's the real practical ones as well that everybody will always have a hand in, from quotes, gifted deposits, and I suppose importantly, we're happy to talk about anything, aren't we, Lorraine?
Yeah.
So anything that people want to discuss. There's no sort of agenda that we have to discuss certain topics for sponsors or for tech companies or whatever the case may be. We're happy to literally discuss anything that affects people during their day-to-day work in the office.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we did a couple of sessions on unregistered land, actually.
Yeah.
That was a suggestion direct from a subscriber. So if you're interested in subscribing to our CPD webinars and to our subscription service, say, I hesitate to use the word cheap, but it's extremely good value, I would say.
Yeah.
And the firm subscription is £150, just a flat annual subscription, and any conveyancer can watch the videos as many times as you like. So just go to www.conveyancing-matters.co.uk, and you'll find everything you need to know. But we got nominated for an award, the Property Reporter Awards, in March, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did, didn't it? I can't believe that was
I
March.
know,
I know that was almost winter last year.
I
It's
know.
just incredible. It's just, it's gone so quick. But we obviously met up with a lot of good friends, didn't we? So Russell Quirk was there, Kate Faulkner had a good sort of rattle with them.
Yeah,
Didn't
it
we
was
know, did
great.
we? But never mind.
Yeah, we didn't win, but it was great given that we're sort of, pretty small really. We still
Small and
got to
niche.
the short list for in the best
Yeah,
training provider category. So we were very pleased about that. And of course, well, slight hint of what's coming, Stu. We want to keep sort of evolving Conveyancing Matters, and so for 2025 we are going to put out some content from our new studio, aren't we?
absolutely. Yeah, we've had a new studio sort of decorated, haven't we, in the Conveyancing Matter colours.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to keep us on top of things, it'll be a slightly new look in the new year.
Yeah, so hopefully people will notice that. So in terms of sort of big conveyancing stories then, Stu, well, I would say the big one really still is one of the big ones sort of rolling on is of course, property information form
Yeah,
and material information. You made an interesting comment, Stu, actually, in one of our CPD webinars that we've just recorded about the property information form. Of course, we had the great furore this year when the Law Society introduced the PIF version 5, edition 5, to which sort of encapsulated trading standards, material information guidance. A real misstep, I think, on behalf of the Law
yeah,
Society. I don't think they had any idea that the profession would react like it did.
of course, yeah.
The Law Sox just relatively recently announced that CQS firms can continue to use the fourth and fifth editions until further information comes out from the Law Society in 2025. But it's something I've railed against, as you know. But Stu, what was your rather sort of depressing comment on this?
Well, I think it was more that we're about to hear more about it in the new year, aren't we, as to whether the Law Society propose to continue. But I think it's a bit late for that now. I think it's sort of been ingrained in process, and I think it's something that it probably will fall away in terms of what people think about it. They may not like it, but I think we're all going to continue to, or we're going to have to almost use it, and that's going to probably make the Law Society's decision to continue with it very easy, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I hope that they amend it, but you know, a a
At least if
significant.
they could revise some of the really, bit, bad bits in it would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it would, particularly in terms of seller liability. It's always been
Yeah,
my biggest concern has always been the risk to seller clients of misrepresentation. Because at the end of the day, the whole material information and amendment to the PIF, it's all predicated on the basis that sellers and buyers will instruct their conveyancer early.
Yeah.
at the point of listing or at the point of putting in an offer. And whilst that would ideally, in an ideal world, that would be great, and it would be great for conveyancers. But what lots of people don't seem to accept is that right now, that is simply not what happens. It is not reflecting what's happening. And that's where the risk for sellers lies, I think. You will still get, how many sellers or buyers would instruct you right at the beginning?
None.
No, exactly. And
No one's going to want to do that. And, the selling agents won't want that either, because it'll only hold up properties going onto the market and the process in general. So, yeah, it's a dangerous time moving forward with that, but unfortunately one that, it's not really going to change, is it?
yeah, I agree. Well, I can't sort of think about the year without thinking about my regulator. The SRA, the Solicitors Regulation Authority, the Axiomints debacle, the Legal Services Board has finally produced a report that didn't have good things to say about the SRA's handling of Axiomints. And you might say, well, why does it matter? Well, on the SRA's watch, Axiomints did manage to filter £64 million. Let me say that again, £64 million from client account. Um, and for me, I think I could ramble on about this for hours. You'd be happy to hear that I won't, but I think the concern for me is that as a consequence of which there's going to be a very big hole in the compensation fund, and there's serious questions about whether the compensation fund should even have been called upon for much of that shortfall. But of course, what the SRA has done is simply expect solicitors to pay. They increased my individual sub as a solicitor by £90 a year, Stu, which I had to pay through gritted teeth at the end of October. And they increased subs on all firms by £2,220, whether you're a sole practitioner on the high street or whether you're a city giant. So the bottom line is that our regulators know that they can, we're the fund of last resort.
Yeah, of course. Mm.
But I'll be interested to see. I think issues regarding the SRA are still going to continue.
Mm.
Um, Planning and building regs changes, if we're continuing just to look back on things that have happened this year and well, just to peep into the year before. The enforcement period, Stu. Any observations on that?
Yeah, well, I think there was a bit of confusion over this. I think a lot of people sort of relied on 10 years, and then, the new 4 year. But of course, it's gone back to 10 anyway now, isn't it? So it does seem to make it a bit simpler.
Yeah, are you noticing any sort of impact on practice or indemnity policies? Because of course, the planning enforcement was 4 years for a very long time for
Yeah,
not a material change of use or a planning condition. So it's 4 years for yonks. So the point is that if unauthorized works had happened and more than 4 years had elapsed, we'd always just fall back and get a fairly straightforward, fairly
yeah.
cheap planning indemnity policy. But now the enforcement period is 10 years from so now the local authority's got 10 years for planning and building regs. And of course, building regs was really only a year, apart from the injunction. Um, so is that making any difference on sort of policies, cost?
I'm not sure it's made a huge. Obviously, there's been an increase, but I wouldn't have said anything that's, particularly noticeable. A lot of firms always went on the 10-year ruling anyway, which I never quite understood. But yeah, no, I wouldn't have said a massive amount, but it kind of is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think firms need to make sure their you know, reports and so on are up to
Reports are up to date, of course. Yeah.
well, I don't think we can talk about the review of any year without mentioning, the B word, the Building Safety Act, which of course was 2022, but a lot of the sort of implications of the act didn't really start to filter through till sort of 23, 24. I know I did a lot of training on it this year. The Law Society rather romantically did issue a big sort of chunk of guidance on the 2 year anniversary of the BSA coming into force. They issued guidance on the 14th of Feb this year. Nice touch on the date. Um, so I'm sure we all were, sitting staring at our significant other halves over the Valentine's meal, thinking, "Gosh, how nice I can look at the Building Safety Act guidance tomorrow." Um, but I think, Stu, the immediate furore regarding the Building Safety Act has died down a bit. I think the lender requirements are still awful, and I suspect that the firms that say they're not doing Building Safety Act work still aren't, and the firms that are kind of are. That part of the market settled
Yeah,
down, would
I
you
think
say?
you probably just summed it up, haven't you? I think that the inconsistency from the lenders is still there. That doesn't seem to move forward in terms of much more clarity,
No,
which in turn has meant there's still this divide in terms of who does it and who doesn't.
yeah. But you're because PCS is doing building safety at work.
We do it, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and probably another change which isn't going to affect firms sort of much on the day to day, but the land reg from October, well, of course, it stuck its fees up on the 9th of December. I think that was a fairly significant thing because the percentage increase was massive. But not or requiring now, basically going back to where they started, first registrations, you now have to submit original deeds and you can't do certified copies from October. I just think what that's going to do, Stu, given the massive delays the land registry is still taking by their own stats, 12 to 18 months to complete the first registration, I can just see original deeds going missing, can you?
This is the obvious danger, isn't it? Yeah, that it sounds so basic to say it, but things such as sending the originals by recorded delivery to the land registry are just an absolute must,
Yeah.
because that's almost the only protection you've got
Well, and of course, the irony is that before you submit a first registration application, you need to be keeping certified copies, of
in the
course.
first place. Yeah,
And of course, the irony is that it may well be then that you're submitting to the land registry in 18 months' time when the deeds have been lost to get your first registration done. So
yeah,
there we go. They
it's the
still haven't need
irony.
them.
The
Yeah, exactly.
one thing you can't rely on, you might be able to rely on
Yeah, you
if
might
there's a
have to
problem.
rely on.
Might have to rely on anyway,
Yeah.
kind of. But anyway, there you go.
And of course, probably finally, Stu, unless you've got any other sort of thoughts about 2024 more generally, something that's clearly moving into 24, 25, good old SDLT rates.
Yeah, it's back again, isn't it? We can't really finish off a review of the year without talking about stamp duty. And yeah, we're all going to be busy bees potentially in the next sort of or the start of next year.
Yeah,
Hopefully not as
absolutely.
bad as the original stamp duty holiday that it was. We're probably all a bit more conditioned to that kind of thing now, aren't we?
Yeah, I would hope so. So the stamp duty land tax rates are going back up. Oh, I always find it hilarious on April Fool's Day, and the threshold for the payment of stamp duty land tax is going down from 250 to 125, which of course is going to bring a lot more first-time buyers in particular and people at that end of the market back into the stamp duty sort of capture when they haven't been there for quite a long time. And of course, I think that is going to cause a problem. You're going to have transactions that hadn't progressed, that have been delayed, and you gave other examples on one of our CPD webinars to about the sort of transactions that might we need to be looking out for.
Basically, it's really difficult because you've got to try and comb through your entire database because you might have clients that received a quote and you can deal with them, but there'll also be clients that transactions are on but they've been on pause or even gone abortive and are restarting again. So it's just making sure that you get the right information out to as many clients as you can.
Yeah, and of course, if you're CQS accredited, do remember that you've got to comply with the core practice management standards, meaning that if stamp duty land tax on a matter is going to change during the transaction, you need to have advised your clients in
Mm.
advance in accordance with your stamp duty land tax policy. So, of course, you do need to be filtering those out. And I can promise you the SRA will look for it if they come and have a look at what you're doing, as of course will the Law Society in terms of the CQS accreditation. Um, and of course, the transparency rules affects CLC and SRA regulated firms. So if you haven't updated your website to reflect the the change in the stamp duty land tax rates from the 1st of April, then you should be, I would suggest. So Stu, that's some of the kind of big stories from 2024. Um, we would of course like to wish all of our YouTube subscribers, our paying subscribers, and our viewers, a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I just certainly hope that conveyancers get the chance to get a bit of downtime, Stu.
Absolutely. It's a time to sort of, take a break and sort of prepare for the new year, as it'll be probably a bit of a running start, won't it, with the stamp duty and level instructions will probably be quite high. So I won't be doing any exchanges on Christmas Day, Lorraine, even if you do try and bug me for any. But
No, oh, well,
no,
frankly, I find that disappointing.
well, there you go. So I'll be, taking a break.
Excellent. Well, it's been lovely to do this for another year, Stu, and we've got more things planned for 2025. So Conveyancing Matters will go hopefully from strength to strength. So yeah, happy Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for watching, and do tell people about us. And I say if you want to subscribe, go to our CPD webinars and so on. Go to www.conveyancing-matters.co.uk. Take care.
Yeah. See
Bye,
everyone in the
Stu.
new year. Bye.